Welcome to Warblock. Today we're going to play the Ginda engagement, which is a name I made up for it. It's another one of these games from the Eritrean War of Independence that I got from a newspaper article. And this article is really just one sentence long, or one paragraph, possibly two sentences, I don't know. But so essentially the EPLF attack a column going from Asmara through Ginda to Masawa, which is the port. So obviously you could cheat and not go along the road and not engage with the EPLF. Is it EPLF? EPLF, yeah. Now, what they've got is one unit. Now, if I were to put them, they're on there randomly. So they're somewhere random, somewhere along this road, near Ginda, which is how it happened. But if I was to put, say, 3 companies, they would all appear in different places, which would be stupid because there might be one, say, here, and the other one would be here, so you'd meet this one. So you need to get them all together. So I put them together, and it's a first for a long time as a battalion. Look at that, an entire battalion. So, but it's been a long time since I've done something like that. So I'm going to play it. So essentially over the weekend, the 16th to the 17th, 1988, they attack, the EPLF attack the Ethiopian military column near Ginda, and they claim to have killed 300 government troops in the battle, etc., etc. So we can play it. So it's not particularly strategic. I'll have to do it the other way around because obviously they're going first, but I'm not going to restart the video just to redo that. Oh, they took a wrong turn. How could you take a wrong turn if you're part of a military column? That's interesting though, because military units do take wrong turns. It happened in the Iraq War. But we're going to catch up. So it's a long old road. It's probably quite hot as well. I think we're getting into back country. So it's not the sort of game you'd want to plan a weekend to play with your friends when you could. Aha. They're in Ginda as well. Right, that's what I was going to do. That's what it's going to do. I'm not sure what to do now, because basically they can still move, but essentially they should be in a zone of control now. It's not as though they should have been and they're not, because I haven't done it. But I think that I want to do it so that because I can now just move back. Considering that I've done that, well, it's a stupid place to ambush someone, isn't it? Exchange. Well, they've lost the initiative, so they're going to run away. I suppose you could say that people died, but they probably died on both sides. I think it's quite interesting, actually. I enjoy the sort of simulation aspect of these things, because something sort of fairly significant and real has happened there, but it's not particularly sort of game-like, and I think it's key to sort of bear in mind, how that actually works. In comparison to sort of considering or thinking it as something that should be a game. Again, although, to be quite honest, I only found out about this game about an hour ago. It's on my list of I've just got a list of, I just typed in the EPLF, Eritrean Peoples Liberation Front, into the newspaper archive thing with the dates. And I've got a bunch of links, so I'm just running through them. And this was in there, and, trawling out otherwise unknown battles and things like that from what doesn't seem to me to be the past. 1988 is my year, it's only recently that I've been in to sort of think and contemplate that for many people 1988 is sort of like decades ago, which it is. But when I was young in 1988, I was 30 years earlier would have been 1958, and for me that would have been beyond consideration as a sort of a recent historic event. That was prehistory, the Dark Ages. And I'm not sure that the current perspective on that period of time from here to there is as dark as I think the 80s were to the 50s. But I might be wrong. We'd have to ask someone from the 2020s what they think of the 1980s. Because a lot has changed. I'm pausing there because I'm just trying to think and contemplate. Because obviously it's very clear that the digital revolution sort of came and has left us all in the mess that we're in now. But there's a lot of people out there that don't know a world without the internet. They don't know a world without mobile phones. you know, and that sort of generation is just going to grow, and they possibly consider the 1980s to be the dark ages. But anyway, this is from the 1980s, and they've got lots of that sort of stuff in there, and I think that again, it's one of those sort of periods that, you know, is really not covered. I think someone left a comment in one of the very few comments I ever get on my videos in relation to something that I said, I think, which seems weird. They said that the whole Eritrean War of Independence is quite well documented in Eritrea, in whatever languages they have. I don't think it's Eritrean, but it's and I thought, well, you know, that's all very good, but it's pointless from my perspective because I can't read it and I can't find it. You know, it's not in a book that I can readily access with an ISBN number in English. And it's one of the things I like about world history is that, to some extent, I often feel that the entire history of the world, whatever country it is, should be defined and described. Not defined, so to speak, but there should be some sort of fairly authoritative version of it in English somewhere. But it doesn't seem that the Eritrean War of Independence has ever been done in that manner, and nor have many other battles, and I can't constantly say this, but it seems quite true. And so it's interesting that, you know, I can go through these old newspapers and drag this sort of stuff up, and I've got to ask myself, well, you know, is there any source with more information than this? Now, I think we've only got one page, and we've got alphabet 88, this which we've just done, Michele, I got that from a video, I think, the recapture of alphabet, defense of Karen, which I did yesterday, Masawa, which is I think a very big battle. It's got its own Wikipedia page, I think, and this one, which I think I got from a newspaper article, but I can't quite remember. But, you know, so that's a fairly good, yes, from a newspaper article. So, I mean, that's a fairly sort of wide spread of engagements and historical accounts, and I'm sure I can expand on that. And that's one thing I like about this, you know, this whole system, is that once you've got the base level of scenarios in place, every time you add things, you're just adding extra depth and dimension to, you know, a fairly reasonable historic base. And I think the only thing that's sort of missing from my point of view it's a twofold thing that's sort of missing, but it's all the same thing. It's basically an overall narrative to hook them all together, and a large sort of temporal map to hook them all together, because we know that this, I mean, from as far as we can see here, we've got a 1988 battle, we've got 1988, 1989 and 1990, but I don't know when it ended, and I don't know when it started. It could have started in 87 and finished in 91 or later and earlier. So some kind of, you know, overview would help. And secondly, because they're sort of done differently, these are obviously lots of hills and this is sort of desert, but I think that the terrain should be more sympathetic in between maps, because obviously I don't always look at in between maps. But I think also it should be it should give you an idea of where things are. I mean, I think I know where alphabet is. We know where alphabet is in the context of here, because we've got the recapture of alphabet. But I think when you look at the defense of Karen, no, I think we're a bit out of scale there. But alphabet is not too far from. Well, alphabet is not too far from. It's like some of those other battles I did, actually. I can't remember what they were, but you start to sort of see places that you recognise. So this is Alphabet, and this is a much better map of Alphabet. I'm not sure where Alphabet is in that mess, but when you, I think it's Mekele. When you start to look at this, you can sort of see other things, and I think if we look here at the recapture of Alphabet, there's Masawa. So that is, so this Ginda, this is what I'm trying to say. The game that we just looked at there, let's get it over here. You see, you should be able to sort of say, okay, I can see all these games, and then put them together. There's Ginda. Now, as you can see, Ginda goes down this road, and this road sort of appears to sort of go down here, but it also comes back up here to Asmara, which is sort of down here, and obviously along to Masawa. And what you've got, if you look at the recapture of Alphabet, you've got Masawa there, and let's just play it, go into play mode. And Asmara there, and there's Ginda. No, and you can see how that sort of goes like that. So you can see that this is the road they're trying to travel along. Now, I could have used this map, and you've just got to go from here to up here, and etc. etc. So that has got me quite excited, actually, because I think you should be able to do that. And although you might think, oh, the maps are rubbish or not as good as they could be, they are all correct. And a lot of effort's gone into sort of, and there we've even got Karen, look, the defence of Karen. So we can sort of say, oh, right, okay. And we can see, well, Karen clearly looks like it's in the hills. You can clearly see a little more, not so much detail, but you can clearly get maybe a better understanding of why it might be difficult to take. And there's Alphabet. So we're beginning to sort of actually put places, Alphabet, Karen, Asmara, Ginda, Masawa, put all these places onto the map in context, and I think we've got a perfect sort of geographic sort of reference point here, the coast. So we know where Masawa is, we know where the coast is, so we can start to put all these other pieces of the jigsaw together. So I think I deserve a Blue Peter badge for that, because I'm so clever. But anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. I am going to maybe do some more. I'm just sort of really trying to sort of play catch up, but I know I've got lots of games that still haven't been done, so I could be doing those. But I feel that this sort of puts something fresh in the pile that's sort of complete, and then I'm going to focus on just going back and doing some of those other ones, and hopefully clearing up the mess, because I've got a lot more time now. Well, not so much. I don't really have a lot more time. I don't really know how to make an analogy out of it. I just had such a huge project, and I'm going to have another huge project, so I'm trying to sort of take a little bit of a breather in between. I mean, just as a side note, there's so much going on. I've been considering, well, I want to do the next volume of that, and I'm considering, well, one of the things I also want to do is to truly revise the print and play rules. At the moment they're okay, but they're actually sort of fairly pure, because they're fairly sort of like faithful to the online version, which doesn't really work as well, because once you get complex mechanics. So what I want to sort of do at some point is to really fine tune the print and play rules by actually printing and playing. And I was looking today on the on Amazon for A5 plastic bags, so that I could actually start maybe printing, because at the moment you can sign up. You can sign up. They are players, but not not many, but you can sign up and you can print and play all these games, which is fantastic. There you go, you just print that map out. I'm not sure how that works, but I think you just print it and it prints out just the map. So you then go to print, but basically you can print this out. But what I was thinking of doing is getting some little bags and actually printing out some games, because what I'm saying is you can already do this. So the whole idea of saying, oh, I'm going to do the print and play, it's sort of, well, it's fairly pointless, because I think if you can sign up and print and play to your heart's content, then what's the point of doing what I'm suggesting I'm doing? Because there is no point. But what I'm thinking of doing is actually identifying, wow, to be quite honest, it's all a bit, I can't be bothered really, because basically there really aren't that enough. There's not enough interest in the game to warrant me doing what I'm going to do or thinking of doing. But I was contemplating doing it just for the hell of doing it, or at least getting the ball rolling, so that I got the mechanisms and processes in place to actually approach this. But what I'm saying is just sort of choosing some particular scenarios and printing them out, and or printing out 3 or 4 in one bag. I was going to put them in a box, but I want to keep the cost down. So basically, I need to buy a colour printer, basically, and then I don't know how to do it really, because no matter how I do it, I think you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. I mean, what I'm talking about is sort of like quality. So if I really try and make the maps and counters really fantastic, it's sort of a big waste, because it take a bit of time to even make one game. But basically, the bottom line is, I'm thinking of making some games, a few, or bit by bit making games, trying to just get into the process so that I can say I can make a game quickly. So I could do it in maybe an hour, or in an evening I could knock out a game or 2. I don't want to spend too long, because otherwise it's pointless. But then I put it in a bag and I sell it on eBay. That's what I'm thinking. And it's really not the money. It's not the money at all, actually. It's I just sort of, I'm quite intent to sort of really try and make this game work, from whatever angle I can. So, obviously you can sign up and play it. Fantastic. You can even become a Patreon. I was looking at someone else's Patreon account today, and they got they were doing financial advice, and he was talking rubbish. Anyone can say the sorts of things that they do. And they had 700 Patreons. I thought 700, that's a lot. I got none. But you can also donate. You can buy the Journal of Modern War. Oh, I don't want to look at that. I'm naming it. You can buy that on Amazon. Oh, I don't know. You can buy merchandise, so you can buy the mugs and the cups and things like that. You can print and play it. You can play it with other people. And there's all these sorts of things that are sort of spin-offs and developments, because, the bottom line is I've been thinking about it fairly, not too intensely, but I've often been thinking about it. And I think what's dawning on me recently is it's been quite a while since I've been doing this now. This is not, I've just started. I just started about 5 years ago. So, and that's no small amount of time. And I still enjoy it. And I sort of, it serves that purpose. I'm sort of thinking, well, this is really interesting. I'm doing things that, just little things, like the research and, putting the maps together in the way that I've just defined, so that, they make sense. You can start putting things together. I think it's sort of, it's a discipline, and I think, as a discipline, it's got a certain sense of satisfaction, because you can apply yourself to the degree that you know that, well, you can at your own sort of pace and rate, but in a way that satisfies a sort of a sense of, I don't know, purpose. What I'm saying is, it's like research, and I think, I've always liked research, but I think you have some purpose behind it, not just sort of sitting there and reading someone's book on something. There is no book on the Eritrean War of Independence that I can find, and there's no books on quite a lot of other things, and so research is sort of quite an interesting part of this. There's a lot of opportunity for research, where there's not as much opportunity for research in the Second World War, because it's all been researched, it's all been written up almost. The day the Second World War ended, it was probably all written up. But with these, you get a sense that there is sort of there is gold in the mine. There are chocolates in the boxes. There are things to be found out that haven't readily been found out. But the point is, it's what I'm getting to is, in the long term, there's a sort of sense of, well, what I'm getting to some extent is, what else can I do with this? And I'm quite happy with the direction it's going, and how it works. And still developing it, putting in the surveillance and reconnaissance, which I did just recently. But what I'm sort of getting to is, although it's a long way off, browsers have a shelf life, computer games have a shelf life, and that's, I've known this anyway, but that's why the Journal of Modern War, it's more evergreen, as a subset, because I can sit here at some point, these have like 10 entries in them, I think, and I've got 800 games, so that's 80 journals that I've got material for, and I could just sit there running through them and just producing these journals. And the thing is, the journals themselves can grow and evolve into substantial products in their own right. So there's this sort of thing that it's sprouting other sort of like living beings from the genesis of the online computer game. But also, the point I'm maybe trying to get to, and it's not a fear or an absolute sort of realization, but at some point it's quite possible that people won't actually have browsers. There's been a big trend or move, and I think it's more of a push by the powers that be, for people to use mobile phones and tablets. I've had sort of commentary about, why don't you make it work with tablets or phones? Well, the thing is, personally, I could not play a game on my tablet or a phone. I once played one game. It was just one of these puerile, really crappy games, and I think it was a Napoleonics game, and you had to you were Napoleon, and I did that on my phone, I think, or on a tablet, but it was so crap. I can't work on a phone or a tablet. I basically use I basically use laptops. I would use a computer, it's the same thing. I use massive screens, so I'm using a desktop sort of product. But at some point, and I think there's a lot of people like me. I can't see anyone who really has anything worthwhile to say using a phone or a tablet, because you need two fingers to type quite quickly. I can't type on a phone or a tablet. I end up with making a mess of it, and the suggestion, I look around, I think, well, hang on, what's been written there? Because the auto type just automatically corrects my words so that it doesn't make any sense. It's like, well, what's the point of that? But what I'm getting to is, if browsers or computing changes so much, maybe in 10 years, I was just talking about, the significance and the relation between now and 1988 being 30 years ago. What will things look like in 30 years' time? And browsers probably won't exist. I have no idea what will, but will Warblog be playable? Will it become completely obsolete? Who knows? But the thing is, the Journal of War, will be there. And if I can get these print and play things, I can actually sort of I can sell those on eBay, like that's the entire future. But the thing is, I think that from my point of view, there's a lot of scope. So I could put box sets together, do the whole Eritrean War of Independence, the box set, 6 battles, do them all, or something like that, etc., etc. I mean, to be quite honest, it's only a sideline, and I'm just sort of warbling now, really. But this whole concept of doing the research and looking into these things, it's still sort of satisfying, and I'm sort of thinking, well, as things come and go. I mean, because when I started this, the Iraq Civil War was in full flow. I mean, there was really a civil war in Iraq. There was ISIS, and there were battles in, there were battles in Iraq. I'm pretty sure Mosul is in Iraq, but I can never remember where anything is these days, really, to be quite honest. And I'm not sure. I know Fallujah is sort of pretty much in Iraq, but I am not sure whether there was a big ISIS battle there when I was doing it. But then it sort of changed, and it was really, that stopped, and then it was more the Syrian civil war. But although that's still sort of tentatively hot, but with what's going on in Idlib and the build-ups there, that's sort of more on the back burner. And I think what we had that's sort of been a bit of an eye-opener is both the Nagorno-Karabakh war, which came and went so quickly, and the Tigray conflict. And you start to realise that, time will go by, and a lot of these things will become historic components of the overall, jigsaw of modern war. And chronicling them is quite interesting, and then reflecting on the chronicles that have been done is, again, it's all quite sort of astounding, really. But anyway, that's just a bit of a warble, really. I'm not sure what else to say, but that's the Eritrean War of Independence and the Ginda engagement. One of the most exciting battles ever. I mean, there have been more exciting ones, but this is one of those sort of, and I'm deliberately giving a big map to give you sort of, the real sort of perspective of, how all that works. But obviously it's a cheat of a game, really. But as I said, that's what got me started. It's still sort of poignant and relevant because it makes you consider and exactly what's what, really. But obviously I'm going to be trying to get this backlog through, which also includes these games. So I'll probably be doing this one at some point next, if I can actually remember what it is. But fortunately everything's got a reference, so I'll be able to look at the reference and figure it out. Yeah. Anyway, I'll leave it at that, and I'll speak to you later. Cheerio.